Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. This one is going to be a bit brief, and it's addressing something that's a concept that's very simple, but it's not very easy. And I realized in my previous video when I talked about saying yes and no to your life and knowing where you want to say yes and where you want to say no, that can prove exceptionally challenging if you haven't slowed down the conversation in your mind. So a sort of preface to being able to decipher that is that you do slow down the conversation in your mind. And this is what I mean. I believe that deep down we all know what we want to say yes to in our life and what we want to say no to in our life. The knowledge is there. The feeling is there. I also believe that we are masterful persuading individuals. What I mean by that is that we have the capacity to talk circles around the understanding that's already inside of us. Okay? So we might want to do something, but internally we are telling ourselves almost on a constant regular basis why that thing that we want to do or want to be a part of is no good for us, or why it's going to be unsuccessful, or why we shouldn't even think about it, or we just kind of keep pushing the thing that we want to decide in the same way. And this happened to me this week. When there's something that we really strongly identify with that's part of our identity, like a profession or a house role or something that really is a strong part of who you've kind of built your identity around. And you begin to have this feeling that maybe it's time to shift out of that identity and that thing that you were a part of is no longer really satisfying you. And this is also very applicable to relationships, as I said in my previous video. Oftentimes, we will sort of ignore that feeling and ignore, and our discontent will just get greater and greater and greater and greater. And we are very capable of ignoring important information for long periods of time until we have a meltdown, which is inevitable because your psyche is attempting to communicate something important to you that you're not listening to. So, what I say when I say that this is the preface to that, to being able to do that, it's exactly that. And what I want to talk to you about is mindfulness. Mindfulness is a very simple concept. I see that there are a lot of different sort of interpretations of what that concept means, but I'm going to keep it in the most simple, most basic, most original version of that concept. So mindfulness is simply being present of your moment, of the moment that you're in. It's about presence, okay? What I mean by that is, let's say you're washing dishes. This is a very common thing that I do, and I know a lot of people do. You're washing the dishes in your sink. But the whole time you're washing the dishes in your sink, you're thinking about your to-do list, or you're thinking about what you have to do for your kids, or you're thinking about what you have to do for your job, or you're thinking about, it's just constant. The lists are going on and on and on and on, and you're just sort of absent-mindedly washing these dishes. So the next time that you're in your kitchen sink and you're washing dishes, I want you to wash the dishes to wash the dishes. So the moment you hear the prattling begin in your mind, stop and focus on washing the dishes. For the sake of washing the dish. Don't say, well, why? Well, what's that going to get me? Well, just do it. Just stop the internal chatter and wash the dishes. That will be your very first exercise in what it means to be present and mindful. And when you realize how different the experience is of washing a dish when you're present versus washing a dish when you're prattling on a list, things change. Especially when it's an activity that you don't particularly like to do. Like for me, washing dishes is one of those things. I don't like to wash a dish at all. So when I slow myself down and make myself come present with what I'm doing, it actually is not so bad. I actually find some level of enjoyment in cleaning. And so I really want you to take an activity, if washing the dishes is not it, that you particularly don't enjoy, like cleaning a bathroom or vacuuming or whatever that is, and just be present with the activity that you're doing and see how that changes your relationship to the activity that you're doing. I have found this to be very successful in not just washing dishes, but in many areas of my life, like when I'm in a confrontation or when I experience an interaction with another human being that's really triggering to me, and immediately what I want to do is fire back. So, what I do instead is just listen to my breath and become aware of what I'm feeling in my body. Like my heart is racing, I'm kind of sweating, I'm breathing a lot harder because I'm upset and I really want to fire off. And eventually the feeling will just go away. And so for me, mindfulness, becoming present of the moment, of the experience, whether it's, you find yourself wanting to eat something you probably shouldn't, and you're having that internal dialogue of like trying to rationalize why you should eat that thing, and just becoming mindful of what it feels like in your body to want to have that, and also to know that that's not in your best interest at the moment. Oftentimes, when you sit long enough with a feeling, it'll dissipate on its own. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to change anything. Just becoming present with the feeling is enough to create a transference of energy and change the feeling. And this works for all areas of life, whether it's, you're focusing on your nutrition, or you're focusing on your fitness, or you're focusing on your personal relationships, or your spouse, or your relationship to your children. I think that the more mindful that we choose to become, the easier it is to know who we are. When we can slow down the mind and come present with what's actually happening inside of our minds and our bodies, we get to know ourselves a little bit better. So we get to know like what our triggers are on a more intimate level and how to handle them on a more intimate level. And I also find that mindfulness benefits everyone. It doesn't just benefit you to slow down and get to know your mind and how you handle situations, but it benefits the world around you because your interactions are inherently different as a result of you being so present with yourself. So the way that you are present with others becomes very mindful, and the way that you choose to respond versus react becomes very mindful. And I also find that you enjoy life more. You're more present in your experiences because you're practicing mindfulness all the time. So when you're in a moment, you're in the moment. You're not so caught up about, oh, let me take this picture, or, let me tell this person that I'm doing this. Or it's more like, no, I just want to be here right now and be in the experience itself because that is so gratifying to me. But mindfulness is something we have to practice because in our culture where it's like kind of sensory overload and all this information all the time and we're constantly looking from one thing to the next, it feels almost unnatural to slow down and come present with what's going on in our world. So we really have to make a point to become present and to actively make that choice at every moment that we're living, whether it's in our relationships or professional life, whatever it is. So I invite you guys to really take on this practice. And the first thing you can do is choose an activity, like I said earlier, that is not particularly your favorite, and do it consciously. Another one is driving. Okay, don't listen to anything when you're driving. Turn off the radio, get rid of all the distraction, put down your phone, please, and just drive. Drive to where you're going and see what that experience is like. It's so transformational when you just do that thing that you're doing without having all this other stuff going on internally. I invite you to do this. I invite you to post in the comments after you do this for an extended period of time or for just one activity. What happened? What shifted for you? What did you learn? Life is all about learning. The more you can learn, the better. So take this mindfulness aid with you and begin the process of slowing down the conversation in your mind. Begin the process of coming to center, of coming aware to who you are and your world around you, and let us know how it goes. All right? Much love. Sincerely, Shakti.